Welcome, everybody, to another episode of TWIM with the TWIM siblings. How's it
This
going?
week in Mormons. You're
Hey,
welcome. It's going good. How are you doing, Maddie?
the Daniels already have theme music for us.
It's
So
really good, but sometimes people want me to sing the throwback version too. I'm here for you.
no, it's true. I like when you sing kind of
Yeah.
what are we going to call this? Jingles? I like it when you sing
Jingles.
jingles
I'll try and come up with a lot of jingles.
for our
What's
various
been going on
segments.
in your world, Matt?
We're moving right now.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Don't worry. I'm coming tomorrow morning to help you. I didn't forget. No, I didn't forget.
And tomorrow my wife turns 45 years old.
Wait, did you ask her permission? Women are sensitive about ages and things.
Well, the reason I say the number is because since she's into math, we always get excited when it's a prime number birthday.
That's true. That's very her. Yeah,
so
prime
like
number
43
birthday.
is kind of, 40.
Yeah.
So anyhow,
okay.
It's like, hey, Sandra, 45, it's a prime number. She's like, no, it's not. I'm like,
wait,
oh yeah.
Is it not?
9 times 5, 3 times 15. There's a lot of things but anyhow.
Okay.
So the plan is that we will move on her birthday, load up the moving truck, and then we'll spend a couple hours cleaning our house after we move out. And then
what a good birthday. Nothing says turn 45, like pack up your whole life and then clean for a day.
I know. She's a real sweetheart. She's a champ.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting. You're moving back to the Big Idaho permanently, yeah?
Yeah. I've been commuting to my job at BYU Idaho from Logan. And so I will commute no more. She still teaches at Utah State. So she'll have to come back.
One of you's got to commute. Yeah.
Happy birthday. We're going to move to Idaho. And
so you can commute and not me. You guys have a great marriage. You are couple goals. I'll tell you what.
She'll be done with her PhD. She defends in the middle of March. So
okay.
Yeah, it won't be too long that she commutes to Logan.
Yeah. Well, good for you. Do you want to know what's going on in my life?
I sure do.
Literally nothing. I've had the quietest couple weeks. I really have.
You went to St. George.
I did go to St. George. I got some sun. I played pickleball. Highlight, I beat my husband multiple times.
That's the real reason why couples play pickleball, because there seems to be less of a gender gap in that sport.
That's probably true. I did get some side secret coaching from my son. He's kind of a tennis champion.
Yeah,
and so he was watching me play pickleball, and he was like, you need some basic understanding. And I was like, okay, well, coach me, but not your dad. And let's see how that goes. And it went really good. But then like the last time we were playing, my husband was like, okay, I've been noticing what you're doing, like your positioning and the way that you're not having to run over here when I do this. So he kind of learned by watching me, and then he started to get better. So I don't think I'm going to win him anymore. So it's a short-lived victory, but it was a little victory. But mainly I need sunshine this time of year, and that was good. That was good for me. So yeah.
I went down to Las Vegas during the Super Bowl to get sun, and it was horrible weather. It was not sunny.
And was it really? Huh.
Yeah. Also, but I have to say, Las Vegas during the Super Bowl is way fun. That's a great time to go.
Huh. If you say so.
I don't know if it'll happen again anytime soon, but there was so many free activities and so many celebrities you could see, and it was just fun.
Weren't there so many crowds of people? I don't enjoy vacationing with the entire universe.
Surprisingly, it wasn't that crowded. Like Vegas is kind of spread out, and there's all the casinos, so there's so many people doing stuff inside the casinos that we'd be out on the strip, and there would be like events at outside of various casinos with famous people, and so it was really fun. They'd give away free stuff, and it was great. Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm glad.
But it wasn't sunny. It was like a rainy, cold Vegas time.
All right, I'm sorry for you.
And Taylor Swift did not say hi to me. I was a little down.
Did you sing the songs? You know all of her songs, every word.
I did. I tried to stand out by the airplanes when they were landing and sing.
Me too. Where you been? That one?
Yeah. I tried.
But no? Okay.
Nothing. I wasn't aware when she was landing, so I was unable to see her. Although
She's
I did go to the airport.
in love with somebody wildly more good-looking and famous than you, so you probably didn't draw her attention. I'm sorry.
But what do he and I have in common? He hosts a podcast. I host a podcast.
That's true. Okay.
But other ways we're not the same.
It's true.
Okay. Okay. Let's get to the news, Melissa.
Let's do it. Let's do our quick clips.
Okay, so this first news story isn't actually like out there as a news story. It's just something I
Mm-hmm.
learned recently. And then I went sleuthing on the internet and I
Oh,
found out
good.
about it. And I think
You
it'll
know
be
what? You
interesting
are
to
a
discuss.
10 out of 10 journalist. Let's hear it.
Okay, so the premise of this story is I have a friend who is serving in the Ukrainian military.
Oh,
And when,
interesting.
yeah, I think he was drafted actually. I don't think he volunteered, but when Russia invades your country, you got to go fight.
Mhm.
So 2 years ago, he contacted me and he said, "Can you help me get military garments? Church distribution isn't sending things to the battlefield." And I was
What are
like, "Sure, no
military
problem."
garments?
So if you're fighting in the military, you need camouflage undergarments, right? Because otherwise the enemy will know what you look like and you're like standing out. And so the
So
church for a
your
long,
your garments aren't white? They're
right.
camouflage colored? Okay. Huh.
Right. So for this would be for as long as I can remember, but even longer than what I can remember, the church has made special garments, if you've been endowed, that you can wear that like are camouflaged or they match the uniform that you're assigned to for the like the service you're
Oh,
assigned to,
okay. Okay,
not white
interesting.
ones. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I ordered some for him. Well, I purchased them for him, and then I shipped them to Ukraine, which was kind of pricey at the time because it was hard to get things in and out of Ukraine.
Yeah.
Well, so then he contacted me and he said, "Hey, I was looking to get him again, and the church has changed its policy. They don't make military garments anymore." And so
Oh.
he's
So
like,
this
"Could you
is just
call?"
in the last couple months?
Yeah. So this is the link. The link here is to the story from the church of December of 2023.
Huh.
And now what happens is, if you want to get garments that are military, that the church just could not keep up with all the different branches of service and all of the different kinds
Different
of.
countries.
Mhm. And
Okay.
so what you do is what just purchase the uniform, and there's some guidelines in this link, and then you take those your uniform to Beehive Clothing, and it says they will place marks in uniform tops and bottoms for the following endowed members. So if you're in the military, the U.S. Border Patrol, or a military contractor serving in a combat area, then they will put marks in the tops and bottoms. And then for other ones, they'll only put them in the tops. And so
Really?
what you do now, apparently, is you take your uniform to Beehive Clothing, and then they put marks in your clothing rather than making it and selling it as military clothing.
Okay.
But this is a problem for my friend in Ukraine
Yeah,
because
cuz how
they
does he
don't have
get
a
to a
Beehive
Beehive
Clothing.
clothing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
So they recommended that he talk to his stake president about how to do that.
Okay. So, are you allowed to make your own garments? Like if you're a
No.
seamstress or whatever, you can only get garments from church distribution.
Yeah, from Beehive Clothing. Yep.
Yeah, I was just wondering.
Yeah, but don't you think that's an interesting change?
Yeah, it seems like a, a less convenient change, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well,
I
so for
wonder
the church,
why.
I'm sure you save money because you're not making military undergarments. But
Okay.
yeah, but now it's on the person in the service to say, "Let me go get some marks put in by
Yeah.
someone at Beehive Clothing."
Interesting.
But isn't it curious also that they don't just say you can do it yourself if you want to? Like, what's
Yeah.
special about Beehive Clothing?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, Matt,
Anyhow,
you're gonna have to dig a little bit more because that was interesting.
yeah.
Huh. Okay, the church announced that the Provo, Utah temple, it's under renovation right now. It's the one that kind of has that janky 70s
I
style.
know. I love it so much.
Yeah, people love it. Well, it's not going to look anything like that anymore. They've already said that it's going to be completely remodeled. They have put out a picture, a rendering of the new temple. It's quite beautiful there against the mountains. And they're going to rename the temple. It's going to be called the Provo, Utah Rock Canyon Temple. So
Hey,
just
we
to kind of
talked about
distinguish
this.
it.
We talked about this with the Red Cliffs Temple. You were
Yeah, they're
saying that they
naming
were
them
naming
after locations. Yeah, well,
Rock
Provo
Canyon.
has the city center temple,
Yeah.
and this will be the Provo Rock Canyon Temple. Yeah.
Okay.
They've also announced the location for Jacksonville, Florida temple
Mm.
and Rexburg's second temple location. You're familiar with Rexburg. How far is
Yes.
this away from the first temple? 3 blocks, 4 blocks? Rexburg's a small town.
Do you know what people like to say? It's
What?
the only place in the church where there will be 2 temples on the same street.
Oh,
Because
really?
I think it's
Wow.
second east is the street that's kind of the main thoroughfare that goes. There's basically 2 streets, right? There's Main
Yeah.
Street and then there's Second East, and so both temples will be on Second East. So one will be on like 700 North, I think, and then the other one will be over by the new Walmart out by the freeway. So,
So pretty
all right,
close to each other.
you could probably do a 5K race from one temple to the other
Uh-huh.
and then back again.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay.
And it's also, Melissa, got a fun name, the Teton River Temple.
Yeah, I like that it's named the Teton River Temple. Maybe they're just doing this if there's 2 temples in the same town or the same location, because St. George, now Red Cliffs, right? Those are basically the same
Oh,
town. City Center,
oh.
Rock Canyon, Rexburg, and then Teton. Maybe. It
I'm
makes
pretty sure
sense.
this one is not closer to the Teton River than the other one was, but I
Yeah.
don't think it would have been appropriate to be like the Rexburg Antelope Farm Temple,
The
the
Walmart. That's
Rexburg
where everybody knows where it is.
Panda Express Temple.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so the next story I have is that the first presidency has put out their Easter message. Yes,
Okay.
Melissa, the Easter message came out on February 20th.
Okay.
What?
Tell me more. This is interesting.
I mean, the Easter message is whatever an Easter message is. I'm interested in who puts out an Easter message on February 20th. It's like the people that decorate for Christmas at Halloween time, right?
Okay.
They're
It's
not
time for
even
one
at,
of my pet peeves. Okay.
yeah, it's not even President's Day. And
I
they're
know.
having the first presidency Easter message.
Okay, but back up. Okay. If it's Valentine's Day and you've still got your Christmas lights up and flashing and your tree in your window with the lights lit every night, that's a
Yes.
problem. Like, I want to knock on your door and be like, hey, excuse me. Did you know it's Valentine's Day? Could you please enough with the Christmas lights? I know people love their holidays, but
I
that
think
just too much
I
for me.
think I think this is it, Melissa. I think that's why they did this. It's a subtle
Okay.
way for the first presidency to say to people, move on from Christmas. It's now Easter season.
Put up your Easter tree.
Probably President Nelson's got a neighbor with the tree up, and he's like, I don't know the Christ-like way to do this. I don't know the best way to let them know that they need to take down their tree. I know.
Yeah.
Isn't
I
Easter
know.
coming up
Easter
soon?
message. Well, the Easter message is really short. It's 3
Yeah.
paragraphs long. So
Yeah.
I think that's interesting. Maybe it's to help us give direction, because you know how Easter Sunday is supposed to just be 1 hour of church and it's supposed to be very, Savior centered. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
as people are trying to plan their Easter program, they want to give them some direction. Although it's really just a testimony that Christ
Right.
was resurrected. Anyways, yeah,
I'm sure there's a
interesting.
video that's going to drop closer to Easter, but
Yeah.
maybe they didn't want people to panic. They're like, oh my goodness, it's 2 weeks before Easter and the first presidency hasn't made a message or anything. And they're like, want to drop the video
What should I
closer.
do?
And
What should I do? Yeah. Yeah.
like,
Yep,
don't
you're right.
worry. The message has been out since President's Day.
You know what I wish they would drop? I loved that one year when they did those He is Risen videos. They've done it a couple of times. I
Yeah.
really like those videos. Maybe
I
they could
bet they'll
drop
do
one
it
of
again.
those.
I bet they'll
Okay.
do it again.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope so. Hey, have you ever heard of the Mormon Tabernacle Choir? That's not their name. Have you ever heard of the Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square, Tab Cats?
Right. You told me I have to call them tab cats because I didn't
That's
know
what they're
what to
called.
call them. Yeah.
Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square. They've announced their Southeast United States tour. So after
Oh,
they go to Mexico, which they've already announced, and the Philippines, which they've already announced, in early fall of 2024, they're going to head to the southern United States. So places like, I don't know, Florida and Georgia and places like that. Anyways, as this gets closer, we'll talk more about it, but they've announced it. And if you live in the South, you might want to try and find tickets for some of those performances, and obviously a lot of them will also be free. So
that sounds great. I hope that they sing all of the Southern classics like
like
that something star of Texas. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba, ba-da-ba-ba, ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba.
okay, I don't think they'll sing that one. What else you got?
Is Danny Boy a classic song of the Southern United States?
I'm not sure. No,
Maybe they'll
I'm
sing
waiting for
some
you
of
to give
those
me one that I can sing.
rousing Southern spirituals.
Yeah,
I don't know.
they
I don't
actually
know
are
how to
really good
celebrate.
at singing those Southern spirituals. They actually really do a good job with them.
Yeah, they're kind of
But
fun.
yeah,
Well,
but we
cool.
sound dumb right now, so we should move on.
Okay, let's move on. I really
Okay.
like this story. So,
Okay.
in Anchorage, Alaska, that was one of the first locations to get a mini temple. And so, if you go
Okay.
there right now, you'll see this smaller temple, and then in the same parking lot, there is a stake center. And the church has announced that they are going to tear down that stake center and tear down that temple in Alaska and build a bigger temple in that same space. And
Oh,
so,
okay.
yeah. And so, what is happening is the members of the church in Anchorage said, we want to donate all of this stuff in our chapel to anybody who wants it. And so,
Oh,
they invited the community to come and take things. And so, you can watch this video on YouTube, or we put a link to it in the church news. There's a Muslim mosque that needed a pulpit, and they're taking the pulpit from our church. And there's
oh,
like
cool.
a youth center in some city kind of north of Anchorage. They're like, there's nothing for us to do in the wintertime. We'd really like to have basketball stuff. So they're taking the basketball hoops from the church. And some community thing needed pews. And so they're taking the pews out of the church. And so everything in this church building, they're donating to the community for other people to be able to use it.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that story.
Yeah, I
So
like it.
this was one of the small temples that like Gordon B. Hinckley was doing in his
Yeah, I think it was.
presidency.
Yeah, I think the
And now they
first one
just
was
need
in.
a bigger temple. Was it announced as a new temple or do you know?
I was actually surprised to hear that they were building a bigger temple there and tearing down
Mhm.
this church. I didn't know that until I read this story. Because I was in Anchorage a couple months ago, last summer, and I went to the temple and I thought, oh, this is so beautiful, and I had no idea that it was going to be remodeled or enlarged or whatever.
Okay, interesting. Okay, cool.
Have you ever been to one of those really tiny temples, Melissa?
No.
Yeah, they're
No.
fascinating. Like you have the recommend desk, and then like right behind the recommend desk is a baptismal font. And then
Okay.
behind that is an endowment room. And then behind that is a celestial room. And then there's like a chapel waiting room off to the right. But they really are just tiny, tiny temples with everything right there.
Yeah, and do you it seems like we had tried to go when we were on vacation once and I can't even remember where we were, but you had to be able to provide people to do the ordinances, it seemed like.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mom and I went to one in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I think it was Baton Rouge. And basically, I don't think we were able to do a session, but maybe we did. And it was like there were people whose calling it was to open and close the temple. So basically they like opened the doors. There were maybe like 15 people there for a session. They did the
Uh-huh.
session, and then and then as soon as you're done, they lock the doors behind you and everybody leaves. It's like
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
fully staffed. So yeah, you have to have an appointment so that people know to be there and you have enough workers and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was a cool story. Okay, this is a little more Utah centric. Do you know who Elder Tad Callister is?
Yes, I just started listening to one of his books about the Book of Mormon.
Oh, okay, yeah. He has another book about the atonement that I liked
Yeah.
and have read a lot. He's an emeritus leader in the church,
Yes.
um, so that means that he used to be the Sunday school general president. He's
Yes.
had a lot of leadership roles, but he's no longer in technically in a leadership role, and so he's
Yes.
emeritus because he has held those callings. Okay,
Yeah.
do you know who Ken Paxton is?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay, yeah, Ken Paxton. He's the Attorney General of the state of Texas, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what happened was there was a Republican Party. They called it an annual Lincoln Day dinner. Okay,
Oh
so it's
yeah.
kind of like this,
It's a big
kind of like
fundraiser.
a fundraiser, yeah, and
Yeah.
it's also like very like rah rah pro country kind of a thing.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so anyways, so Davis County is in Utah and they were holding this fundraiser and they had two guest speakers, which were Ken Paxton, the Attorney General of Texas, and Tad R. Callister, who they list his name as Elder Tad R. Callister, right? They're giving him some clout for being the
Ah.
elder who he is.
Yeah.
And so anyways, some people were upset that that Elder Callister was putting his name and giving a speech to raise money for a political party, for basically the Republican Party.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I could
so
see that.
yeah, so people thought, hey, is that cool? Can we do that? And obviously a lot of people went to it because they wanted to hear from Elder Callister and probably Ken Paxton too. I'm not sure
I
why
hope it
Texas
was.
Attorney
I hope it
General was at
wasn't.
Utah.
I
I'm
don't
not
know
sure.
what.
But yeah, so what do you think? Do you think, I mean, Elder Callister is emeritus. He didn't make the flyer that put his name as Elder Callister. That's just who he's known as, but definitely they're using his prestige to raise money for a political party. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I would imagine that there are rules about when you can and can't use the title elder if you're
Oh,
a general authority or emeritus. But I think if you're emeritus, it's technically true that you're still a general authority and
yeah.
could be referred to as elder.
Yeah.
Um, but it is not necessarily a good idea if it's for a political party and you're raising money, because there's already this perception that that the church and Republicans are super aligned, and so
Yeah.
having I don't care if he wants to as a person go speak for the Republican Party. I have no problem with that. But anything that where you mention the church or your position in the church, I think you just
Mhm.
have to be careful with that, because people will just make right. They'll be like, oh, the Democrat fundraiser didn't have an emeritus general authority. So what does that mean? What does the church think? Which,
Yeah.
maybe isn't fair, but that's just the way people are. And I think it's important to be aware of that.
Yeah, I think the church tries to be careful about not endorsing certain political parties, and this did not fall in line with that careful attitude at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Elder Callister has done a number of things like this since he's been an emeritus general authority.
Mhm.
There's a number of groups that he's involved in that are promoting conservative political agenda. And again, I don't have a problem with anybody promoting the political agenda that fits with their ideas, but you just have to be careful when you're in a public position in the church to not allow inference that the church somehow endorses what you're saying and what you're promoting.
Yeah. Yeah, he should be able to have an opinion and to say what he thinks. Like, that's definitely a right that he has.
Yeah.
And honestly, even as a member of the church, something that we believe that you should stand up for what you believe, that you should be politically active. Like, those are important things. So maybe it's just don't use the word elder when you're speaking
Right.
in that
Ken
genre, in
Paxton
that
was
range.
impeached in they impeached him in the state of Texas. He wasn't convicted, but the things he was accused of and the things they presented evidence of were pretty horrific things. So, for as a member of the church, it offends me to think of a leader of our church attending an event with somebody like that, right? But I can see that it's not necessarily like, I don't know. I can just see why it would make people upset. That
Okay.
don't associate the church with some of these bad individuals in politics.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
That's a strong opinion I decided to express, Melissa.
Yeah, you did. It's fine.
Okay. This story is so there's a former LDS bishop. His last name is Gooden. He's facing additional charges of child abuse. He's alleged to have sexually abused a number of people, and his stake president is now being charged with a felony for not reporting that abuse.
Hmm.
Um,
Right.
doesn't it feel like we have this a story like this every single time we talk?
It does. It does. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know what to make of
yeah.
this stuff.
I don't like it. I know there
Yeah,
is legislation in Utah right now that's proposing that Utah changes its laws surrounding this. In other words, it's and it hasn't passed, but it's under review by the legislature right now to make it so that clergy, so bishops in Utah, are mandatory reporters,
really,
and that's
Utah's
being
going to
discussed
change
right
that.
now. Well, it's being
Wow,
discussed right now.
wow.
I think, yeah, but yeah,
But if you're a bishop and you're sexually abusing people, then a proper ecclesiastical person to confess to is your stake president, because the
right,
bishop can't confess to himself.
yeah,
And so I could see why a stake president might say, I'm his ecclesiastical leader and this is confidential information. So I can understand why a stake president could go in that direction. At the same time, a bishop is in a position of tremendous trust from the
mm-hmm,
congregation.
right.
And yeah, I know what I would do, like hypothetically, but I also know that oftentimes in real life, I don't do what I would have hypothetically thought I would have done.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I would like to have no more stories of people being
Yeah.
abused and then not additionally not getting support from the church and not getting legal action taken.
I hope if
I'm
nothing
tired
else
of it.
comes from this, members of the church will just know that you can't trust somebody just because they have a calling and just because they're in a position of authority in our church. We have a lay
Yeah.
leadership,
Yeah.
and you should not trust everything that a person says just by virtue of the calling that they're in at the moment.
Right. Yeah. Yep. It's a sad lesson to learn, but true.
Hey,
In that
Melissa, there
vein,
couldn't be something more different than the story you're about to share.
well, no, I'm actually going to jump to another Mormon behaving badly
Oh,
story.
okay, okay,
Yeah,
good.
I'm going to jump to Ruby Frankie.
Yeah,
Ruby Frankie is the social media influencer who abused
yeah,
her children. Just as a quick recap, her son had to escape out of a window after having not been fed and being tied up with duct tape. And he escaped and ran to a neighbor's house, and the neighbor called and got him help. Ruby Frankie then, so she had many kids. She was also working in connection with someone named Jody Hildebrandt. Anyways, Ruby Frankie did plead guilty, and she has been sentenced. Her
yeah,
sentence was from 4 to 60 years in prison
yeah.
for each of her 4 counts of aggravated child abuse. I think that's a good sentence. I'm glad that she's going to serve time. She did come out and make a pretty interesting statement.
Yeah, did you watch
Based,
that?
yeah, did you?
Yeah, I watch all those things. I can't get enough of them.
Yeah, so explain to us her statement. It was interesting, huh?
Well, so at the sentencing, she was just so apologetic and she acknowledged that she was wrong. Like she in no way tried to make any excuses for what she did. And she
But she said
thanked,
she was deceived.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I believed her that she was deceived.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know, like this
Um,
stuff always tears me up, Melissa, because I don't know what I'm supposed to think. Like, I feel like in some ways she's a victim. Like, not a victim, right? She did horrible things, but it's like the Mormons behaving badly they're rarely rational. They're rarely in
right.
a proper state of mind, and they're
Yeah.
almost always like deceived by somebody who
Yeah.
led them down this awful path.
Yeah, okay, sure, that's true. But what troubles me about Ruby Frankie is um, you have so many kids. Can you honestly not see what's happening to them under your care? That's number one. And number
Right.
two, then to go preach your way of handling these
I know.
situations
I know.
on
It's
social
horrible.
media. And
Right.
honestly, though, she did say a lot of things on social media, like about how you should raise children, but she didn't talk about all the things she was doing. So that makes me think she knew it was wrong to duct tape your children. She knew it
She
was wrong to lock them in a basement and not feed them. Like
there was
some
something
things
about
she
like
knew.
holding one of her kids underwater, like he
Yes.
couldn't breathe.
Yep. Yeah. And
Yeah.
those things were not on her social media account. I mean, there were things that were, that would lead up to that, but
Yeah.
but not those specific things. So, yeah.
I know it's a weird thing, Melissa. Like people will do something that's sort of like on the edge, right?
Yeah.
And then if they get praise for that, it kind of pushes them a little bit further where they want to go a little
Mhm.
bit further. And I feel like
Which is
that
what
kind of
she kind of
happened with
says
her.
this Jody Hildebrandt person did, because she was like her psychology mentor kind of a person.
Yeah.
And she
Life
really does
coach.
say, like, yeah, she told me to do these things. And I thought it was, the right thing to do. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, well, let's talk about some social media people who are members of the church that are getting positive attention.
Okay.
So we talked before about, maybe we didn't. So do you know who Nara Pellman is?
Nara Pellman.
Nara
I
Pellman's
don't
really
think so.
popular. She's married to a model and they have
Oh,
social
is she
media
Lucky
stuff.
Blue's wife?
Yeah, Lucky Blue's wife.
Yeah, I
Yep.
know Lucky Blue. Well, I can't remember his last name, but she's like this big trad wife, traditional wife.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
And
okay,
then
okay, go on.
the other one is her Instagram is like Ballerina Farmer or something like that, but her
Yeah,
real
I
name is
follow
Hannah
Ballerina
Neelamer.
Farm. Yeah, I follow
Oh, you
Ballerina
do?
Farm. Yeah,
Did
yeah.
you know that I know her brother really, really well?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I didn't actually make the connection. Um,
Okay, so what's the story about these two?
so these are just stories giving background information on these people. And I just
Okay,
thought since we're going to talk about the Mormons behaving badly on social media, we should talk about
yeah,
some that are. So I guess I wouldn't say that they're without controversy. There are
right.
people that don't like the trad wife Instagram stuff,
Well, I
but
feel like is it Nara? Like I love her Instagram. I think it's lovely. I like what she's trying to do. I don't think it's very Mormon looking. Like, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
there's Yeah, but that's okay. Like she can do Mormon her own way, and if she wants to, I mean, she's definitely like saying like I'm a member of the church. Like she's promoting her religion, slightly in her feed. Like she's not
Yeah.
shying away from it at all, and I think that's great.
Yeah, I think it's nice that people show the diversity that there is within the church.
Yeah.
But I also think that the popularity of these channels kind of show that like there are people out there that want to see like the trad wife stuff is popular for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
and people will criticize it and say, "Oh, it's like not reality. It's not the way things really are." And
Sure.
but that's how all of it is, right? Isn't
Yeah.
it all
Yeah.
a little bit fake? Like it
Well,
seems to me like there's a lot worse fake stuff out there than these kinds of social media accounts.
look, they're just promoting a lifestyle, and as part of that, they're promoting who they are. And frankly, if you can make money doing that, great. I'm happy for you. I think that's great. Like, I don't think we should be under the assumption that anything on social media is 100% realistic. And that's
Right.
not the assumption I'm going with. But, like, yeah, if you want to portray a good life, a good way of living, a good religion, a good moral, I'm all for that. Go for it.
Okay, well, Melissa, you get the last super exciting story, in my opinion. I can't wait to talk about this one.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. I'm gonna do this as big deal, little deal, no deal.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, okay.
Okay.
I
So
just got to say, though, dailymail.com might be my favorite new website. That's where
yeah,
this is
Matt,
coming from.
you go on about social media and being concerned about the dangers of it. And then you say that dailymail.com is your favorite website. So I think the listener should keep that in mind. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna give you a headline and we're gonna say big deal, little deal, no deal. Okay.
Okay.
Mormon, father of three, reveals how coming out as a transgender woman has made her marriage to her childhood sweetheart even stronger, despite prompting them both to quit ultra strict religion.
I
Big
love
deal,
it
little
so
deal,
much.
no deal. Three, two, one. No
Big deal.
deal.
All right.
Listen,
So I love this story so
dailymail.com
much.
slash UK. It's always from the UK.
I know. I
It
know.
is literally just the Inquirer. But Matt, you love it. And listeners, you can link to it because it's got some great pictures. And Matt, tell me why it's a big deal. Go ahead. Go ahead. I think it's no deal.
Yeah, well, so the gist of the story is, this couple, they've been married, and then one of them starts having just gender dysphoria, I believe is what they call it,
Uh huh.
and says, "I need to transition from man to woman." And his wife at the time, it was a he, right? His wife is like, "Whatever, like, and you need to do what's best for you." And so the story is all about how um is it Amanda and Shay? I didn't read enough details to say who is
Who
who, but
then? Mm-hmm.
now they're still married and it's the same couple, and it
Yeah.
just looks like two women married, and instead of the man and woman that originally got married. And
Yeah.
I like it because I think that marriage in its best form allows people to change as they grow and allows them to become different people. And I think that it's awesome that they stayed together. And I think that it's sad that they left the church. Sometimes I wish the church could be a place where you could feel like you can grow and change and be who you want to be at church and not feel like you have to get kicked out of the church. So that's why I think it's
Mm-hmm.
a big deal. Big deal
Mm-hmm.
because all of the good that made their marriage strong, and big deal because I hope the church could someday be that way.
Yeah. I just think it makes transgenderism too much of like a shock story. And I think it's an important issue and a serious issue. And I actually do like the way that this couple handled it and managed it, much like you do. But I just don't like the shock sensation of, and
Yeah,
now
yeah,
they've
yeah.
left their church. And anyways,
I know, and the ultra strict conservative
yes.
church and all.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a great part.
Okay.
Hey, listener, Melissa and I have decided we're going to start doing a new thing. We're going to midweek, we're going to drop some separate episodes that are just focused on interviews, where we're going to interview people that are in the news or maybe noteworthy individuals. And we're going to call this Twim Interviews. Is that what we
Yeah.
want to call it, Melissa?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, we've just
why are
been
we going to
talking
do
about,
this?
Yeah, well, we've just been talking about how much we love listening to TWIM, and we love all of the different voices that are on TWIM these days. We've got the international hosts, and we've got the TWIM sisters, and occasionally we have extra guest hosts, and it's interesting and enjoyable to listen to other people's perspectives. But also, there are things that are going on in the news that if we actually talk to the people involved in those stories, would make them more interesting and more enlightening to us and to our listeners. So,
Yeah.
so that's why it won't always be famous people. It won't always be big name people. Sometimes it will be everyday people who have interesting things happening. But we do want to stick with This Week in Mormon, the brand, and just kind of stay topical as far as what's happening, but just expand the way that we look at those stories.
Yeah, so we're going to keep the weekly news just as it is, but we're
Yep.
just going to have midweek things. I don't know exactly what day they'll drop, but we'll have additional content that's interviews. And yeah, I think it's important to have noteworthy people on. We have some guests that I'm pretty excited about coming up
Yeah.
that are some noteworthy, kind of well
We've got
known
some really
individuals.
good guests lined up. Yeah, I'm excited too.
But then we also just have some everyday people. So, because my personal belief is that the everyday people are just as important as the noteworthy people, and they all have stories to tell that I think will help us better understand Mormon culture. And so,
Agreed.
in fact, one of our guests that's coming up is not a member of the church, and I'm excited to hear his perspective on Mormon culture as a not member of the church.
Yeah. So yeah, we hope you'll look forward to those. Our first one will drop later this week. And we would also just like to thank you for continuing to listen and support This Week in Mormons. It's been so much fun doing this podcast and connecting with y'all.
Yeah, so remember that you can subscribe to Patreon and get bonus content for just a few dollars a month. We're on social media. We're actually on YouTube if you want to watch the YouTube video of our podcast. Um, you can send comments to contact at thisweekinmormons.com, or you can go to our website and leave a voice comment. And hey, listener, thanks for listening to the original Mormon / Latter-day Saint News podcast. Hope
The
to join you
original
again.
Mormon News Podcast.
Hey, and after the interviews drop, let us know what you think about them. And if there's people you'd like us to talk to, let us know. We'll try and get anyone on that you think we should talk to. Have a great week.